All right. We've got our next shop project here. It's the Irregular Riser project. We're going to be cutting out pentagons out of 3/4 inch plywood, framing it in with 2x2 all the way around, making nice butt joint miters, screwing those together, screwing the plywood to that, and then screwing a layer of masonite to the top of all that. Let's have a closer look. Okay, you're going to want to take your drawing and you're going to want to use your scale ruler at 3-inch scale and measure how far away each corner is from this base point here. So using my framing square, I'm going to draw the same shape in full square on this 3/4 inch piece of plywood. I'm going to start with my base point here, so I'll make that point 7 inches away from this corner, and then I'm going to mark each corner and connect the dots. I'm looking at this point up here. I know it's 2 inches over from my base point, and I know that it's 1 foot 5 inches up to this point here. So I'm going to set the framing square for 2 inches. I'm going to mark up 1 foot 5 inches, which is 17 inches. This is a circular saw straight edge guide. We made it here in the shop. They're easy to put together. Best thing about it is this nice straight edge of the plywood. This distance here is the same distance as the edge of the shoe or the base of this circular saw to the blade. So all you have to do is run the edge here along the edge of this plywood and you'll end up with a nice straight cut right at the edge of this piece of plywood. All you have to do is line up your line with that plywood, make your cut, and it's nice and easy. Normally when you're cutting into a piece of wood, the protective guard here will swing out of the way as the blade hits the wood. It just naturally pulls out of the way and swings back when you're done. When we're using the straight edge guide, you have to swing the guard out of the way, then put it in place. Make sure the blade is away from the wood. You don't want to be touching the wood when you start the saw, and then you can let that swing down. Now we're going to be doing the perimeter of our piece of plywood with our 2x2. This is 2x2, 1.5 by 1.5. And we're gonna have to go all the way around. None of these angles on this piece of plywood are 90 degrees though. Unfortunately, I've been a bit of a jerk that way. But it's no problem to find out what these angles are with this sliding T-bevel or bevel gauge. All you have to do is take it, line it up to the corner like this, tighten the wing nut, and that's going to tell me what this angle is, and I can use that to transfer that angle to the saw. Oh, all right, over at the miter saw, I'm going to take that bevel gauge and I'm going to press it up against the fence here and adjust it over. I like to use this metal edge here as a guide to see how perfectly close I am. A little tap here, looking straight down the aisle there. Sometimes the red is also nice. That looks pretty good. If you start making your cut and you think it's a little off, you can always come back and just give it a little adjustment. Okay, my first piece looks pretty good. It's about the right length. The angles look good. And, well, by some miracle of physics, the offcut pieces that I have here and here Well, they're the perfect angle for me to continue around the edge here. Unbelievable, right? How is it even possible? So now all I have to do is hold this guy steady here. If I have this nice and flush over on this edge, then I can just, again, hang it off the edge of the table and mark the underside with a pencil. Now I didn't have a long enough piece to make my next extender off this one, so before I reset my saw, I'm going to cut a new end with that same angle on it. Looks pretty good. I'm going to want to screw it together with 3-inch screws. I'm going to drive a screw about there, over there, right about there. Oh yeah, and there. But screwing at an angle like this can be a little bit tricky, so I'm going to be pre-drilling these holes. It can be hard to start drilling in at an angle. You start like that and the screw wants to wander like this. So we always start drilling straight. And all you need is just a little dimple like this, just very shallow. Once you have it at, there's a tip there that the drill can stay in, now you can start drilling in at an angle. We're using 3-inch number 8 wood screws. Make sure you're using a number 8 Robertson bit. They're usually painted red. Probably want to set your drill to low speed. I'm going to use my countersink bit to make that hole a little bit easier for the end of the screw to fit in. We're going to be using this a bunch later. Doing pretty well. Okay, we're going to use 1.5 inch, maybe 1 3/4 inch screws to attach the plywood to the base. Just long enough. I'm going to want to hit screws at the end of every one of the boards here. So I'm going to want a screw to land about here, somewhere near the end here, about there, here. Not too close to the end, you might split the wood. We're getting close. One of the last things to do is attach the masonite to the top here. Masonite is a pretty tough material, and unlike the plywood that we were just screwing into, if you don't countersink a bit of a V-notch for the screw to sink into, it won't do a very nice job sinking itself in. As an example, here is a screw that I didn't pre-drill or countersink at all, and the fiber is all pulled up and it's all in the way. This is still a little too shallow. I can still feel the screw. This is just right. The screw is just sunk just below the surface. This is way too much. I went way too deep there. It's not holding on to this masonite surface at all. This still a little too much, but not too bad. This is about the best one in this bunch for sure. I'm going to line up this long edge, good place to start, and I don't want to go any closer than 3/4 of an inch from the edge of the outside surface. If you take the head of your screw, and if it just fits in just nicely like that, with a little bit of the countersink still showing. You've got a good depth. These are number 6 screws, so make sure you switch to a number 6 Robertson head screw. It's one of the green ones. Make sure that you cover the whole riser. What I forgot to do was trace the shape of my riser on the top side here. Would have made it a lot easier to finish making these screw holes. Alright, last thing to do is we are going to router off the top layer of masonite here. We've got a router bit in there set up like this. This is a flush cutting router bit. The bearing here will roll along the surface of the wood here, and it's going to trim everything just above it like that. Because the blade of the router bit spins clockwise, if I go counterclockwise around the perimeter of my riser, the bearing will stay nice and right up against the wood there and do a nice job trimming it. That's it. When I'm marking these, what I'm going to be looking for is that your shape is correct, that it looks like what I gave you on your assignment sheet, that you've done some nice corner cuts here, your use of the bevel gauge has been nice and accurate, you made some nice butt joints, hopefully everything is nice and flush here. The top layer of plywood should be nice and flush. I'm a little bit out here, about 1/8 of an inch, not my best work. All your screws should be just below the surface. I don't want any of them hanging out here that are going to catch a dress or an actor as they're going by. And then the top, make sure that all your number 6 screws are just countersunk just below the surface and a nice distance away from the edge. Put them every corner and in the long spans along edges like that, maybe 1 or 2 in the middle. This one here, that's a little too close to the edge of the wood. I don't like that. I would penalize myself a couple marks there. But if you followed all those instructions, there's no reason why I shouldn't do really well on this assignment. Good luck.